Here we are, back in the full flow of Real Talk season. We're going to be bringing you reviews weekly now. You're back in the country, back on the hustle, and what better way to start with our first proper review together with
a big one that you and I have been looking forward to for a while.
Yeah, Todd Phillips is the Joker. Todd Phillips' interpretation of the Joker. Interpretation is the key word here because, like we were just discussing off camera, no one truly knows the origin of this crazy character. This is Todd Phillips' spin. He's cast Joaquin Phoenix in the role as the iconic villain. What a piece of casting that was.
Yeah, and before we go any further, this will be a spoiler review because we'll post this a bit later after the release date, only because that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But yeah, interpretation from Todd Phillips. He wrote this and he directed it, and it's... You know what's really funny about this movie? Although it's about Arthur Fleck, who is a man who comes through with comedy, and there are comedic elements, like dark comedic elements.
Yeah, very dark.
Todd Phillips shows a new side to him, storytelling. Like, this is the same guy that brought us Hangover 2 and Hangover 3, which I think are some of the worst sequels in history. But The Hangover is fantastic. But I think this has to be the new life given into the new DC movies, right? This is going to generate a whole new thing where I think DC has really been trying to separate itself from the MCU, and I think they didn't help themselves by,
forcing an interconnected universe.
Yeah, and then I think if you look at the past two movies, well, actually, past three movies with Aquaman, Shazam, and Joker. Well, I was going to say with Wonder Woman, they do connect it a bit more to Justice League, but Aquaman, they really don't hint at any of the other characters. Shazam, although it's hinted sort of that he's in the same universe, they definitely do not push it.
Yeah, they don't force it upon you.
And now with the Joker, it's clear that this is its own thing completely. And I'm telling you, if the DC's plan going forward is to do this kind of movie, like to do a standalone,
please God,
that would be perfect. Especially now that we've got Matt Reeves' Batman around the corner. But Joker, for me, is the best DC movie since The Dark Knight. Now I know you can have a bigger opinion, don't you?
Yeah, so just touching on what you said there, which is really interesting about DC potentially heading in this direction. Can I look back at Fox before Marvel? They started spearheading this idea of an R-rated approach to comic book movies. Deadpool, massively successful. You follow that up with the Old Man Logan film that fans have been clamouring for ages. We got that with Hugh Jackman's Logan. Perfect end to that character. We never thought that we'd get to see that character in such a visceral, raw, gritty, violent. The key word being violent. He's a very violent character just by nature of the powers that he possesses. We got to see him at his fullest, thankfully, before the MCU deal. Now, the Joker, the Batman universe, Gotham, horrific place, doesn't fit in with this family-friendly MCU style we've got going on, which is very successful. But when we look at that world, look at the way it's portrayed in the Batman movies alone, the Christopher Nolan trilogy. But then we go ahead, stick an R rating on it, and do a full-blown character study of one of the most misinterpreted figures in the history of comic books. Arthur Fleck is the name given to him. He's never had a name for the actual man behind the mask of the clown.
It's interesting because I thought even before we saw the movie and even before the first trailer came out, I thought to myself, it's interesting that we're getting a Joker origin movie when we've not even really discovered what his true origin is yet in the comics. I mean, you and I were talking before we started filming. The Killing Joke is the closest thing we have, but even then, there was a lot of diversions and a lot of hypocritical statements made in it regarding. So even his true origin was still unknown. I think with this movie, they try to give us what we think would be the origin of Joker, but I personally believe that there are so many nuances in this that, you can't really believe everything that you see on the screen. And I think the brilliance behind this is Arthur Fleck, when we go into this movie, is a man really trying to struggle with mental illness. He has a condition where he laughs whenever he feels pain or awkwardness.
And uncomfortable situations.
There's a point in the movie where he's playing with a kid on the bus, and it's probably a big a big journey back home for him after going to the doctors or whatever. And he's there, he's passing the time playing with this kid, and you can see the genuine happiness, and you kind of feel for the character.
1 minute in the day, he's having a nice moment.
And then the mom turns around, starts scolding him, stay away from a kid, and then Arthur just uncontrollably laughs, not in a hearty way, but in a cynical like a clown, like a clown, like he is, and
that's an awesome way to portray it. By the way, like
with the illness, the condition.
Not, I would say awesome very loosely. I mean the fact that it is a condition that the way he laughs.
No,
like,
I agree. It's an awesome story technique that they use.
It's very believable. It's not like, oh, this guy's a stereotypical clown who just laughs for the sake of being portrayed as a manic person.
Which can work. That can work.
It can work, and it has worked throughout the character's history. But the fact is, we're in 2019 now. We've seen 3 incarnations of this character from 3 different actors in the past decade, or just over the past decade now. So we need to see something fresh. So the fact that Joaquin Phoenix, that Arthur Fleck can't literally help being the way he is, literally can't help holding back the laughter, really does play into the believability of this movie.
Sure, and I think, we start diving into the psyche of the Joker, which is really weird to say because it's almost sounding like you should be caring about the Joker, but I wouldn't say that we're caring. We're just so invested, empathizing, and it's really, really smart the way that Todd Phillips created this character where, you don't really know whether or not you're supposed to believe what he's saying, but you also want to because it seems as if the world is against him.
Yeah.
And then we see that he does have that girlfriend moment all throughout the girlfriend moments. Excuse me. Throughout the second act, which I thought watching it, I was like, this seems a bit forced. This seems a bit weird, but I was like, maybe she can turn into Harley Quinn, or maybe she's just secretly as crazy as he is. But nope, they decide to make it that he's crazy, and it's. But what then, Jamal? What that made me think after that moment?
Has anything?
What else? Yeah. Well, what else has been faked? Now, I have seen the movie 3 times now, and it's only been like 6 days since it's come out, and I probably won't watch it again. But every single time I'll try to watch it after the first time, I try to look for the sign. The sign that he was using outside of the store, and he said like some kids beat him up, and they took the sign, and then his boss, at the clown shop, his boss at the clown shop says a bunch of kids jumped on you. Really? It makes you think, what if he made that up in his head and he kept the sign along? Now, I looked
2 ways of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I tried to see, I didn't see anything like that, but that's where I sort of went after that moment, including the fact that the gun wasn't even his. I mean, the gun wasn't given to him by his co-worker. He actually bought it and took it and snuck it in and blamed his co-worker in his head for having the gun in the first place. And so there was that revelation, obviously, when he's in the clown shop and he's saying, you should be thanking him because he gave me the gun. And the co-worker's like, stop talking out of your ass, or something like that. And we start to see like the Joker really evolve into this person where, he is the Joker, what we kind of know now, where he's crazy, he's delusional.
Definitely towards the start,
yeah. And then that leads into a whole new thing with the ending, with the talk show.
First of all, let's talk about the amazing bathroom sequence. I'd say there's 3 scenes in this film, which I would definitely describe as iconic in this decade and in cinematic history. Just completely jaw on the floor, beautiful, summarizes this movie in short clips, in terms of the moments in movie history. So Arthur Fleck, throughout the film, is just given bad card after bad card. He has no hope in life. Even from the beginning, like you said, the sign's been took off him. His mum is severely ill. He lives at home with his mum as a middle-aged man.
Yeah.
No romance in his life, no one to look after him. And then, after the subsequent beatdowns that he's had again and again and again, he's on the way home from a very bad day, unsurprisingly. Full clown makeup, on the train. 3 guys who are just being complete douchebags, representing the wealthy side of Gotham, who
there's a whole social class message in this thing too. It's great.
Yeah, this film is very scary in terms of the connotations it has on real world scenarios, how different classes can empathise with different people and the results that would have on real world scenarios. But yeah, so Arthur again he becomes really uncomfortable with the presence of these guys on the train. The manic laughter starts to happen, uncontrollable laughter.
Well, they start harassing the girl that's on the train, and then Arthur doesn't really do anything. He starts laughing like you do. It makes him nervous, uncomfortable, you would say. And it's like he starts uncontrollably laughing because of this condition.
And then you put that in the shoes of the three guys, and they're thinking, they aren't aware of the guy's illness, but they are douchebags, I'm not defending them. Then they start picking on him, start beating him down. Arthur has the pistol on him that he'd got earlier that day. And you'll think as an audience, he's just going to threaten him. He's not going to go full blown straight away. No, this isn't that type of movie. This isn't pulling its punches at all. Straight for the dome. Blood splatters on the window of the train.
All over Joker, all over Arthur as well. And then he shoots the second guy. And then the third guy, we see he got either shot in the leg or something, and he starts running away. And then we think that's where it ends. But then Arthur gets the idea, I don't want this guy telling anybody. He starts, I think, one of the most craziest shots in this that almost invoke a little sense of terror in me when you watch this is when Joker's just going down the hallway of the train platform with just the gun out, and you just see him panting in his face, like almost scared that this guy is getting away, but also excited with the chase, like a dog chasing cars.
That's
you know
the key
what I mean?
word, man.
And you see the third. I really just want to call him a rapist because that's what potentially they probably raped someone in the past. And that's where they're going to, and you don't really know whether or not you side with him because that's what they were going to do, or maybe it's because
siding with Arthur.
Siding with Arthur because you don't know maybe if he's doing it, he's killing these people because that's what he wants to do. Whether that's like subconsciously what he wants to do, like let out because you see after he kills the people, he starts to tell his therapist, not his therapist, sorry, he goes into the Arkham Asylum, and he starts looking at the documents for his mother, and then he tells the clerk about it, and he's like, when you want to know what the best part about it was? I enjoyed it.
Well, you can see after that scene, like I said, he hunted that guy down, and then he came back into the apartment. Now, Todd Phillips actually broke down this scene. Was it Vanity Fair that he broke it down? I saw it on Instagram, but it had come from an official.
I saw it on Film Enthusiast, but I don't know. I don't know if it was
some major website. We'll go on.
Hollywood Reporter. Hollywood Reporter. Yes.
Right. So Todd Phillips broke this scene down, and basically the idea that he'd had in his head was quite stereotypical for what you'd expect after someone's killed someone. He was going to have Arthur in hysterics, come back into the bathroom, panicking about cleaning the gun, getting his dirty clothes off, whatever. But he told Joaquin that day that he'd just received a new piece of music from the film's composer, and he played it to him in front of about 20 members of the backstage staff and on-set people. Played it to him, and Joaquin started to dance as Arthur in what I can only describe as, unshackling the chains that society has put upon him. All the stress has gone away. Once he's committed his first murder, he's slowly becoming the person who he feels he should be.
Like feels almost at one with his consciousness.
Exactly.
And it's really like a ballet scene. It's like a ballet scene. Yeah.
It's like moving to the point of tears of how beautiful that is. I know it's crazy considering the circumstances of what's going on around him, but this guy is truly becoming self-aware, and he starts to love who he is because he's fought back.
Yeah.
He's kicked back to society, and he's wearing his clown makeup, and that's when you start to see he needs to hide who he is as well. He needs to hide who he is for what he's committed, and he doesn't want to face who he is as a person, so the clown makeup gives him an escapism to be someone greater.
And he starts, so there's a scene later on where he's in his apartment with his mom, and they see Thomas Wayne, and obviously his mom has a certain connection to Thomas Wayne. She believes that they had a relationship when she used to work with him, which she did used to work for him.
That actually came to the birth of
this leads into something else, man. It's when Thomas Wayne starts talking on the TV about how he can't believe that there's someone who's dressing up as a clown hiding behind a mask. And I just thought to myself, how ironic is it that Thomas Wayne is putting down somebody hiding behind a mask when his son is one day going to be hiding behind a mask to fight criminals. And it just kind of shows that, there is truth in what he's talking about, but there's also hypocrisy in the justice that he's seeking. And then we talk about his mom. Now let's get this out of the way. I don't know if he's adopted or not, but I do know one thing. I'm pretty sure that mom has some relation to him. in some capacity. Because I'm talking about mental illness, I'm talking about delusions. His mom is very delusional. And on the documents, it shows that Arthur was adopted. But
that's another thing, man. See, like the adopted thing. So there's a few scenarios of where Arthur's origins have actually come from just pure genetically. Is he his mother's biological son? And that's like just one question alone, because then was it a biological son from a normal relationship, or was it from Thomas Wayne? So there's two different scenarios right there. And then was he adopted?
Which is what the documents say, but could those documents be forged? Is this all just a bunch of BS from Arthur?
But regardless,
I don't know.
Regardless, though, of whether he's Thomas Wayne's son, whether he's Penny Flack, that's...
in the apartment building?
Whether he's Penny's son, the fact is that the trauma of his childhood is a key factor as to why Arthur is the way he is. One of the people from Arkham said that he was found, or one of the police officers, I can't remember, had said that he was found as a kid chained to a radiator, extremely malnourished, had very little water, and on the brink of death. And
his mom tied him to the radiator and allowed
her boyfriend to beat him.
This is just where I think this movie is genius with the fact that it tries to give you an answer that you can take and you can enjoy. You can't take the fact that he is adopted or whatever. Or you can try to read into it as if this whole thing is almost like a jigsaw puzzle that we're almost putting together, but we really don't have a final picture.
Exactly.
I'm okay with that.
The leads do not link up. No matter how hard you try and piece them together. But that is art at its finest, because my perception of it, of how I interpret it, is going to be different to yours. Everyone's experience is different, and that is art at its purest form. It's like when you listen to a song for the first time. Sure. It's going to resonate with you in a different way. Maybe it brings up a memory of your life or something like that. But what I will say is all these different interpretations as to what was real, what was a figment of his imagination. The heavy influences of this film have been Taxi Driver and King of Comedy.
King of Comedy
is a massive influence in this movie.
You can definitely tell with the way that Scorsese develops his because in King of Comedy and especially Taxi Driver, those are obviously anti-heroes to they're not even anti-heroes, they're villains.
King of Comedy, there's no redeeming quality other than he wants to pursue a career.
This movie is definitely inspired by King Comedy, and Taxi Driver. That can really throw a few people off. For me, I love this similarity, because I remember I actually watched King Comedy when I went to America back in June. I saw it on the plane, and it was one of the only few Scorsese movies I've never seen. And then after watching Joker, I was like, well, of course this would be quite similar, because...
And Robert De Niro is the king of comedy in that movie, so it's really cool role reversals.
You know what I kind of thought was funny was, I thought maybe they might pull something from left field and make Murray Pumpkin from King of Comedy. They didn't, obviously, but I thought that would have been kind of funny if they did.
That would have been mad.
That probably would have been too much, but that's something I was thinking about whilst watching. But then we look at the movie, and then we look at the ending, which ends with Arthur in Arkham Asylum, what we assume is about 30 years after what happened. For most of the movie.
Do you think so? Do you think it was that long after?
I think it was that long. Okay. I think so, because he looks a bit older. He looks a bit more grown up, and I think the reason why he's laughing at the end with the joke is that he realizes that this can be taken multiple ways, but his joke is he finds it funny that he is the reason Bruce Wayne is who he is today. He's thinking of the joke of hiding behind a mask, because I technically created the idea of hiding behind the mask. And then he starts laughing, and then the therapist says, "What are you laughing at? Just a joke.
You would never believe it."
So then, my idea of it is that he's laughing at the joke that maybe he's the reason Bruce Wayne became Batman. But also, what if he's laughing because he just created this whole scenario of how he became the Joker? And the beginning of the movie is really the end of the movie, where he's lighting a cigarette.
Yeah.
With this might come across the way, but with a therapist that looks, and I think her figure looks the same. I think a lot of that, and I think maybe there are some mirroring right there for potential ways to read into how the end might really be what happened at the beginning. Like, that is what was going on in Arthur's head, and the whole movie is him twisting facts about his life and him thinking, oh, wouldn't this be funny if maybe I'm the reason that Bruce Wayne became Batman, and probably, you know, making up in his head that one of his Joker minions killed Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, like we said, that ending is definitely one that leaves you lingering for a long time, trying to piece it together.
Yeah.
The bit where Arthur is stood atop of a police car with all the clowns just completely worshipping him is absolutely amazing cinema.
Cinematography, by the way, can I just quickly say,
and the
fantastic.
score is absolutely gorgeous.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought before there's so much that we've been talking about. We want to make sure we call that out, because it's probably the best cinematography films, like, you know, that quality of the year. For sure, next to Ad Astra, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. So we look at this scene. Arthur has achieved his dream. He is completely revered by all those around him. He is idolised. He started a movement from the underbelly of Gotham to rise up against the rich who have caused so much trauma to the lives of people like Arthur. And this leads to the death of Bruce Wayne's parents by one of these clowns, which is absolutely like traumatic for Bruce, but everything what Arthur wanted. Now, when you just analyse the ending there, my take is that Arthur has kind of spawned the inspiration for the real Joker to appear later in Bruce's life. I don't think Arthur is the Joker. I think Arthur is sort of a legend in the criminal underworld. I think that will be his only contribution. That's all he wanted to achieve. He's not a criminal mastermind or anything like that.
Because he definitely isn't throughout the movie.
He's not calculated in anything he does. Everything is spur of the moment. I know the Joker character isn't by nature a calculated individual, but he definitely does rise. When you look at Heath Ledger's incarnation, even Jared Leto's incarnation, they are controlling a lot of Gotham's criminal sort of doings and dealings, and he's a very feared character. The character of Arthur Fleck and his interpretation of the Joker isn't more feared because of his capabilities as a powerful businessman or the people he's got around him. It's more to do with, we really don't know how far this guy's going to go as an individual. He doesn't need people around him, but he welcomes it. So I believe that we will never see Joaquin Phoenix portray the Joker again. I don't think we'll ever see him in a DC film again. He's perfected the idealised vision of what the Joker would be in a film that I never knew was possible. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought a film like this was going to be made, where we see a speech as real, as authentic on that talk show with Robert De Niro, as authentic about modern day society in terms of
mental health,
how far people will get pushed and pushed down to the point where they break, they've got nothing left. And he shoots De Niro in the face on live television. It's unbelievable.
What's really going to be impressive about this movie is how much money it's going to make. It's already in its opening weekend made more. In its opening weekend, it made more than any other movie of all time in October. But also made more money in its opening weekend than Justice League did in its opening weekend. Now, the reason why this is great is because it's not really showing, I believe, just how poor Justice League was, and it was poor. I believe now we might be going to the part where DC might be getting a rhythm. You know, Aquaman, although I didn't like it, it made money. It made over $1 billion.
Character studies, man. That's what we want.
And I think after this, I think we might get more of it, which I'm hoping is what we get with Batman, which I'm hoping we might get in the future with
I want a
Flash.
R-rated Batman, and I think we need that for the Batman movies. Gotham, like I said, it isn't a nice, pretty place to live at all. We want to see the sorts of violence and, you know, sort of these characters who portray good and bad qualities, and we don't know quite where to stand with them, because that is real life. There isn't. I know Marvel have started doing this as well, but not to the certain extent of where you are in two minds as to whether to root for someone, but we need Batman to be like that. We need him to be a character where we see the good and the bad in him.
Yeah, I think we might get something like that. You know how we saw Wolverine with Logan?
Yeah.
We might see Batman like that in The Dark Knight.
A morally questionable
The Dark
guy.
Knight, oh, what's it called? The Dark Knight, not Rises.
Have they named it?
The Dark Knight Returns.
This is what they've named? I
Dark
thought it's
Knight.
just called The Batman.
No, not this film. I'm talking about in the future. You're talking about R-rated. The next one isn't R-rated.
You know for a fact it ain't.
Yeah, they're shooting it for the PG-13. They might change their mind after this. They haven't even started filming yet.
Yeah.
But I just know Matt Reeves and DC. That's what they were wanting to do. But it's not connected to anything else. But you might get that with The Dark Knight Returns in the future. You might get a standalone movie of Batman beating the crap out of the Joker, and then we start to think maybe Batman's just gone crazy and he's not a good guy anymore. Maybe he's just beating on these villains because he's canon. He's just a violent dick.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where we're going in the future. Overall, I loved this movie. It's not... Now, I'm going to say this. I know you have a different feeling where, in regards to best comic book movie of all time. I don't believe it's the best comic book movie, but I think it's the best DC movie since The Dark Knight. And Joaquin Phoenix is without a doubt the best Joker, which, by the way, he should be, because he has more material than any other actor who's ever played Joker.
Well, yeah, when you look at the screen time of the Joker, it's not very prominent through a lot of... Obviously, he's featured in Suicide Squad, he's featured in all the Batman movies. Well, in a lot of Batman movies, definitely not in all of them, but when he is featured, he's very much sort of in the background, lurking around.
Is there ever a point in this movie where he's not on screen?
That's a very good... No.
I don't think so.
Which is amazing, isn't it? Joaquin Phoenix has to win that Oscar. That is one of the best performances I've ever seen in cinema. It really is. I've never seen someone commit so much to such a challenging role and such a famous role and put a completely different spin on it as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are calling this movie a film, not a comic book movie. I think you should call it a comic book movie because I think it does great things with the comic book genre.
Yeah.
But the way that Joaquin Phoenix transforms the Joker into somebody much, much deeper, and I love Heath Ledger's Joker. And I think Heath Ledger still to this day gave us one of the most iconic villain performances of all time. And I probably would call that performance still more iconic than this one. But I think what Joaquin Phoenix has done with this role has revolutionized the way that we can look at comic book movies in the sense that they can be these character-driven stories.
That's what we need, man.
It's brilliant.
We need character-driven stories that say a lot about the world we live in and make us take a look at ourselves for better or for worse, because it's pretty interesting that this film has been released in the week of World Mental Health Awareness.
Yeah.
Because that day is actually today, and or was it yesterday?
No, sir.
It's today.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me not stand well with a lot of people, the fact that movies like this get made and then it makes them think, are my actions towards other people correct?
Yeah.
Movies that present this sort of extremism against bullying, against oppressing people, showing the depth someone will go to truly
get noticed
and get away from pain, and then it makes people think, maybe I shouldn't have treated that person so bad in school, at work, or whatever. A film like this shouldn't make you recognise the flaws within yourself. You should know full well that treating people like that just isn't acceptable in today's society.
There's a line in the movie where Arthur tells Murray, if I was lying down in the streets of New York, you people would just walk all over me, which I believe is actually a quote from another movie, or I might have heard the saying again in New York. But that saying it's weird because let's not confuse the issue here. Arthur is a psychopathic killer, murderer, but what he's saying is so shockingly true that there is a attention that's brought, like you're saying, to the issue of maybe the way we're looking at these,
there are massively sympathetic elements about his character,
and I think the way that we can look at this is maybe how people are trying to prevent these mass shootings in America by saying, try to find ticks in people that this it's a sign. Not tick, a sign of people who might be going down that road in the future. And You know, I'm not saying this movie is going to change the world as we know it, but I think this movie does do a great job of presenting these messages, presenting these ideas, these topics, while also giving us a fantastic comic book movie that Joaquin Phoenix, I think, without him, I really don't know who else could ever fill this role.
I don't want to see the Joker get played for a long time now. Yeah. I don't think we need to see that. I did hear that whilst this was being made, that Jared Leto had agreed to have his own just like character-driven film.
I don't even care.
No one wants to see that. Absolutely no one wants to see that.
No.
We don't need another incarnation of the Joker. But yeah, it's going to stay with me for a long, long time. Right now, it's my film of the year. It is.
Yeah, I think it's right up there along with Endgame and Yesterday for me. Well, what did you guys think about Joker? Have you seen it? Because this will be released like a week after the film comes out. So hopefully, if you're watching it this far in its spoiler video, hopefully they have seen it.
Yeah.
But let us know what you thought about it in the comments.
Thank you so much for listening to our thoughts, guys. We want to hear yours, as Damian said.
Yep.
And we'll be back with another review. I'm trying to think.
There's a lot.
We got
the great thing about this year is that there's a great movie coming out in the UK from now until the end of the year. So hopefully we can try to get a review out either every week or every other week.
Well, so
yeah, movie news as well. We're getting to the year of Oscar season's about to be upon us.
Yes.
So big times.
Yeah.
And you're gonna go actually. You're seeing Thingy at the end of the month. The Lighthouse.
Oh my god.
I'm not able to see it. I'm actually away on work placement, but
quickly give my thoughts on that when I've watched it.
Definitely.
No spoilers. Just
I think that's great.
Yeah.
More reviews coming your way. All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Take it easy.